Welcome to the Instant Sequence Timing Map tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to go over the settings in the Timing Map dialog box, and to launch the Timing Map dialog box we click on the Tools menu and select Timing Map, and up pops either the most awesome dialog box ever created or the most intimidating. It has the 24 ribbons across the top here and all possible the possible 32 frequencies down the left side here to have this great big grid of options, and that's what makes it look so complicated. But before we proceed, I'm going to close this dialog box, and I want to change how things look on the screen here. Right now we have the star at the top with some star rays coming down, and I want to take the star away, and to do that we click on the Tools menu and select Configuration, and here it says Star in Use. We select No. That removes the star, and I want the ribbons to be parallel, so I click on this button here that says Wide Grid, and we have 12 ribbons here. I want to increase that. We click on the Tools menu, select Layout, and I'm going to max this out to the maximum of 24 CCRs. And note that even if you have the 2 CCR license level, and even if you have the demo version, you can increase the number of CCRs to the maximum of 24 and play around with that for the purpose of seeing how it would look if you did have 24 CCRs. The only time the license level matters is when you go to export, and we're not going to export right now, so anyway, just realize that you can set the number of CCRs to be 24 no matter what version you are running. So for the rest of the settings, we have light type as CCR, ribbon orientation as vertical, ribbon shape as straight, ribbon length as full, location of ribbon controllers is the default at bottom, but that setting only is used at export time, and we're not going to export, so this setting really doesn't matter for the purpose of this tutorial. We click on OK, and now you see we have 24 vertical ribbons, and I'm going to launch the Instant Sequence dialog box by clicking on Tools and selecting Instant Sequence, and we first have to open an audio file in order to do anything, and I'm going to open up the song The House on Christmas Street, and then we say Sequence All, and this at first it's going to analyze the audio file and build all the triggers for the effects, and next it's going to actually build the effects, and it takes a little longer here because there's 24 ribbons, and it puts the effects for each ribbon on a different row in the time layers here. And since we have 24 ribbons, we want to see all 24 of them, and right now we're only seeing 10, and so if we click over here we can shrink it down until we see 24. I guess we've got to have it there. Now we can see all 24 ribbons here, and if we play this we will see a really cool instant sequence here. And House on Christmas Street works very well for instant sequence because her voice and the instruments in the song are very distinct, and they are about the same volume throughout the whole song, so it sequences very well with instant sequence. Now, but for this tutorial we want to show how you can change the settings for a song that's not so easy to sequence to. So I'm going to click on Open Audio File, and I'm going to select Rock You Merry Gentlemen, and then just so that we can see what's going on easier, for the TCM1 I'm going to change it to Morphs Separating, and I'm going to select TCM1 for all 24 ribbons, and then we say Sequence All. It says the audio file has changed, create new timings, yes. Now this song is over 4 minutes long, so it takes a little longer for it to generate the timings. And there we are. It says, do you want to erase what's there? Yes, go ahead and erase what's there and create a new sequence. So that warning is letting you know that there's no turning back. You can't use undo to go back to what was there. So anyway, this is what it generated. Since I used morph separating and used a color of native, and I created that particular theme in red, that's why everything shows up as red. And if we play it, this is what it looks like. Now that's pretty cool, but especially at the beginning here. Now I happen to know that there is more going on in the upper region than what we're seeing here, and because you noticed there's not very many effects in the higher frequencies, and when we play it, everything is most of the activity is going on down here. Now if we bring up the timing map, you notice there's this apply sensitivity as, and the default is volume relative, and volume relative means that for all 32 frequencies it's going to look at the overall volume and figure out when to trigger an effect based on the overall volume. And if we select frequency relative, then it's going to analyze each frequency individually and determine a trigger level based on that frequency. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, just think of it this way. If you choose freq relative, then it's going to help even out all the frequencies so that you see effects in all the frequencies. So we have freq relative chosen, and we say sequence all, and we tell it, yeah, go ahead and do your thing. And now when it creates the effects, right off you can see by just looking up in the time layers here that there are more effects in the higher frequencies, and if we play it, you can see that also. So the beginning of this song makes a good demonstration of the difference between volume relative and freq relative. Now you may prefer volume relative. That's fine. You can select whatever you want, but in this tutorial I'm just showing the differences between the two. Now in absolute, it says apply sensitivity as absolute. Now that means that it's just going to choose an absolute level and trigger everything based on that. And for songs that change volume a lot, this may not be a good setting, but it's going to show the differentiation. Anyway, in some songs it shows the differentiation better. In this particular song, it ends up looking a lot like freq relative, but you'll see here when it's done. Okay, there's not as many effects up here as in freq relative, and we see a pattern coming down more here. Anyway, let's play it and we'll see what it looks like. And so there were fewer effects. Let's look at that again. And so that's what absolute does. So different songs will, you just have to experiment with it to see which one works best for your particular song. Now myself, I like freq relative for the beginning of this song, and up here you notice sensitivity and length of effects. I think it's we can reduce the number of effects here. If we crank sensitivity down to 3, you'll see that it reduces the number of effects that get generated. It reduces them by quite a bit. There, you can see there's not nearly as many effects being generated. And then, so that's what sensitivity does. If you want the effects to be longer, you could crank this up. Let's go ahead and crank it up to the maximum of 10. Now, what that does is some of the effects that would normally be 2 separate effects are going to be joined into one. Now, if the note is very distinct, it's not going to do much with it. But you can see some of these things, some of these effects have been made longer. Like up here, you notice there's like that right there. So the effects are longer when you do that. Now, if you if we crank the sensitivity and length of effects up, it's going to you're going to see nothing but red up there. Okay, there. So you can see there's a whole bunch of effects being generated, and they're longer. If we play that, that's what happens there. So myself, I've played with this, and the settings I like are 4 and 6. And we do sequence all. And to me, this is a good happy medium. But you can do whatever you want and set it to how you think it looks best. Now, one thing I'm going to show you here is that at 1 minute and 22 seconds here, there's a really cool guitar riff. Right there. And like I said, that starts at 1 minute 22. And the riff is cool, but what I want to point out is that instant sequence doesn't hardly even see it. Look, we'll play that again. Because what you would hope is that you would see a cool pattern coming down with that riff, but there's so many other instruments hitting other notes in the same frequency as him that it gets masked and you don't really see it. And just realize that things that your ear will pick out and notice very distinctly, the computer may not see it at all. The way it analyzes everything is it just looks at each frequency and says, okay, what is the strength of the audio at this frequency, and that's different than the way your ear analyzes things. Your ear can pick things out better than a computer can. So I just want to point that out. So that covers these different settings right here. I'm going to open up a different audio file now. We click on File, Open Audio File. I'm going to open up gallopingjinglebells.mp3. It's going to take a little while to analyze and process the MP3 file, and after it's done, warning that says the time length of the audio file is shorter than the length of the effects, and it's going to chop off those effects that are at the end of the previous song. That's fine. So we click on yes and proceed, and if we click on sequence all, it's going to reanalyze this song. And after it's done analyzing the audio file, it's gonna say, do you want to erase what's there? Yes, and then it'll go ahead and create a new sequence. Now you'll notice we don't have much up here. That's because this song is soft at the beginning. If we play it here, and it didn't create hardly any effects because both because the song is quiet and because the sensitivity has been turned down to 4. And so I'm going to put it back to the defaults, and putting it back to volume relative helps also. And then we'll say sequence all, and we're going to see a lot more effects this time. And like I said, it's a combination of increasing the sensitivity to 5, and because we did volume relative. Volume relative does a better job of evening out the effects for the whole song. So if we play this now, we get a lot more effects. Now what I want to show here on this song is that if we click on this button right here, it expands the timing marks, and if we click on bigger, it makes it easier to see. If we click on left right, it includes the left and right channels for each one of the frequencies also. Now this I have this as a thing that you can pop up and down because this is something you probably only want to reference momentarily. You wouldn't do this while sequencing because you can't see the sequence, the ribbons down here when you have this pop down. So but anyway, right now I just want to show what all these lines mean. Up here it says all, and that's the total sum of the whole, all the frequencies, so it's the total volume. And then down here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's all the frequencies from number 1 down to 32. But up here in the all row, you can see there's 3 lines. The top line is sort of an orange color, an amber color, and that's the total, or both of the channels. And below that is a green line, and that is the left channel, and the blue line is the right channel. And like if we go down here to frequency number 11, you can see the orange line is there and the blue line is there, but there's no green lines. So that's showing that on this frequency during this part of the song, only the right channel is loud enough to produce any timings. And that's because at the beginning of this song it's just an oboe and a cello playing, and it's an orchestra playing, so the oboe is on a different side of the stage than the cello, and so they each show up stronger in their respective channels. So let's pop this back up, and I want to show that the timing map allows you to set the timings just based on the left and right channels if you want. The default is to have everything selected with both, but you can go select different channels to just trigger based on the left or right channels. You could go through and manually select all that, but there are some default frequency settings here. If we go down to stereo low to high and click on set frequency spectrum, it's going to set some defaults here, but it's also going to set some default theme color and movements, and I already have them set the way I want, so I'm going to uncheck this because I don't want it to set theme color and movement for me. So if I now click on set frequency spectrum, you can see that for the first 12 ribbons it set them all to the left channel, and for the last 12 ribbons it set them all to the right channel, and then the first 12 ribbons are set from low frequency to high frequency, and the second 12 ribbons are set from low frequency to high frequency. So this creates a stereo view of the song, so to speak. So let's move that out of the way and move instant sequence dialog box back up here. If we set sequence all, it's going to create some new effects. and you can see it's a different pattern up here. They're in like two groups because this is the upper 12 are the left channel and the upper 12 are the right channel. And just to make it so that we can see the left and right channel easier, I'm going to set TCM2 to be morph separating, just like TCM1, but I'm going to set his color to be green. And then I'm going to set TCM2 to the last 12 ribbons, except, yeah, there we are. The first 12 are set to TCM1, and native is the same. I'm going to change that to red. It's going to do the same thing. Native ends up producing red, and then TCM2 is green, so the last 12 are going to end up being green. We do sequence all, it does its thing, throws it up there. Now you can see these, it's the same effects, except the first 12 are going to be red and the last 12 are green. And if we play this, this is what it looks like. And what's happening is this is mostly the oboe and this is mostly the cello, except I forgot that actually I'd rather have this movement should be none. The cello was slowly moving up because this TCM2 had a movement in him. So we play this again. And so that's pretty cool. I wanted to also show in this song, since the beginning is quiet, I showed before that this doesn't work well, but I'm going to put it back down to sensitivity of 4, length of effects of 6, and apply sensitivity as freq relative, and do sequence all again. And there's going to be very few effects at the beginning here, but I wanted to show that that setting actually works very well for the rest of the song as it gets into the more intense part of the song, which will come up in about 5 seconds here. So there, it finally gets into the real jingle bells part of the song. So for the loud parts of the song, this sensitivity works very well, but for the quiet parts of the songs, it does not. And so the answer is to set this, ideally for me, if I was doing this song, I would set the sensitivity more sensitive for the beginning of the song, for the quiet parts, than for the louder parts. And there's some other things I might want to change as the song goes along also. And the way you do that is with this sequence the selection only option. Right now we have sequence all, so every time we do a setting, we do sequence all, and it does those settings for the entire song. Well, you can just sequence a section of the song at a time, but that's the subject of a different tutorial, and so if you want to learn how to do that, look for the tutorial that says instance sequence by selection. But for this tutorial, that's all I want to cover, and thank you very much for listening, and have a super day.